Councillors, can I have your attention, please? Welcome to this meeting of the Town Planning Committee, and I declare the meeting open. We will commence the meeting with the following reflection. I would ask those gathered to join us now for a few moments of silence as we reflect on our roles in this chamber. Please use this opportunity for reflection, prayer or thought to focus on our shared intention to work respectfully together for the well-being of our whole community. Thank you. The Cardinia Shire Council respectfully acknowledges that we are on the traditional land of the Bunurong and Wurundjeri people and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Tonight we have an apology from Councillor Springfield for tonight's meeting. Councillors, do we have any declarations of interest? Nope, I see none. The items on today's agenda are item 5.1, T210561PA, use and development of the land for a dwelling and outbuilding and the removal of vegetation at 31 Walford Road, Beaconsfield Upper. Councillor Owen, you wish to move a motion that differs to the officer's recommendation. Can you move your motion, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I move the following, that planning permit application T210561 for the use and development of the land for a dwelling and outbuilding and the removal of vegetation at Crown Allotment 57, Section C, Parish of Gembrook, 31 Walford Road, Beaconsfield Upper, be approved and a notice of decision to grant a permit be issued subject to the conditions listed in the agenda papers, please.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Can I ask for a seconder? Councillor Cameron. Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Owen to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Cameron. So the proposal tonight seeks to construct a dwelling and outbuilding, access via driveway and remove native vegetation associated with bushfire risk and effluent field. The proposed double-storey dwelling is set back 39 metres from the front boundary and 36.8 from the site property boundary. The proposal is to accommodate the dwelling and associated bushfire risk outbuilding and effluent area at a total of 0.76 hectares of land to be partially cleared. So the subject site is approximately 8.06 hectares. It's rectangular in size and is located on the northern side of Walford Road, which is a gravel road. The site is void of any structures and is heavily vegetated with the exception of a narrow cleared area of approximately 15 to 20 metres in the width adjacent to the western property boundary. So there's a long history with this application. I think it's been going for roughly almost 5 years, but T210561 was lodged in July 2021. There was a request for further information in October 21 and March 22. Prior to the notification, the application was advertised and there has been ongoing discussions between council officers and the applicant. Notification of the application occurred in May 2022, where we note that there was no objections, and I understand there's been letters of support from at least one neighbour. So the subject side, I did talk about that. So I do acknowledge there's strong environmental values on the site. It's of undulating topography of the site, and dense vegetation makes much of the site inaccessible by vehicle. So there is a number of planning permit triggers, including the Rural Conservation Zone, Bushfire Management Overlay, Environmental Significance Overlay. We did, as I said before, it was advertised for public submissions. There was no submissions from the public. Also, external references or referrals. Fire Rescue Victoria had no objection. DELWP, I think they're a different department now, they had no objection, subject to conditions, and also same with the fire rescue, subject to conditions. We do note our environmental officers had real concern about the application. Obviously, that's detailed in the report. Engineering had no objection, subject to conditions. So I am proposing approval. I know it's against the officer's recommendation. I think with the extensive conditions, and there is extensive, I think there's either 25 or 26 conditions, and they will be quite difficult for the applicant to achieve. But if this permit is approved, the expectation is that these conditions be sort of adopted and part of the permit, and there's expectation for the applicant to do what's asked of them through these conditions. I personally, I've been to the site. I personally don't think there is an alternative site on this property. It does provide some really good screening from abutting neighbours, and from the road you won't be able to see the house from the road, and I think that that's a really positive thing. It is at the top end of the block as well, and I think it's most appropriate that we do approve it. I appreciate that some people might have concerns, but I think the conditions really address those concerns, and they are significant, whether they're vegetation offsets, also integrated land management plans, construction environmental management plan. So a number of things have to be achieved for this permit to be approved. So I will let my other councillors speak on it, and I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. I'll now go to the seconder, Councillor Cameron, to speak.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Owen. I have really nothing much further to add, except to say that it's my understanding that the applicants don't intend to do anything but enjoy the bush on their bush block once they're able to get this planning permit through. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak? I see Councillor Kowalczyk.
Thank you, Mayor Radford. I too want to thank Councillor Owen and council officers for their work to create a potential path forward for the applicants who I note are in the chambers tonight. I too have been to the site and support the amended motion put forward by Councillor Owen, even though it does have extensive restrictive conditions. I feel it balances environmental concerns of council officers with the applicant's desire to build a family home. The protections and the offsets are very tough, as you mentioned, Councillor Owen. And also we know via signed letters that the neighbours in the area support this development. So I think that's worth noting too. These are residents, these applicants who have tried to do the right thing, who have been organised, who have engaged with council early and often. And so I would like to see that be rewarded in a way by showing a path forward. I think by approving this amended motion tonight, we're viewing this in a positive light and we're giving an option. That's all this is it's an option. We're enabling it to become the applicant's prerogative to decide whether or not this has now become too onerous for them to proceed, or whether or not they want to abide by these conditions and build a family home. And so I feel that it's logical and it's appropriate that we approve this amended motion in terms of balancing environmental concerns, the applicant's desire, and the right thing for our community overall. And I know it may be a tough one for some councillors, but ultimately I hope they see this in light of the work that our officers and Councillor Owen have done. And if you read through this, it is very, very cumbersome. So it's a real test of the mettle of the applicant. If they really want to see this through, that option's available to them. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kowalczyk. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak? I see Councillor Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Owen, for requesting the delay so that we had a better report on covering everything, so we got a bigger picture. And I want to thank the residents for complying and just giving us as much information, because it shows that they want to do everything the right way to get this through. So I'll be in support of Councillor Owen's motion. There are 24 conditions to this that need to be met. So, and that's a lot of conditions, but I feel that the residents, in the way that they've managed themselves within council, always obliging, giving information, inviting councillors onto the property to have a look and get a big picture. I believe that they'll follow through with the conditions. So I will be in support of this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Any other councillors? I see Councillor Moore. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't add to this much more here. I just like to support Councillor Rowan's alternative motion to this. So I will be voting in his direction or for the alternative motion. Look, I don't think I've seen an application like this with so many conditions on it. In the years I've been on council, it's a lot of conditions to comply with. So I respect Councillor Rowan for your efforts working with the council staff and the applicant. It's just one of those sort of things, particularly when you get down to conservation zones. It pulls triggers up for me. And removal of vegetation in those areas, I respect the planning department for that flag that raises whenever those sort of things come into our midst. But sometimes we have to look at things from a common sense point of view. I know that sounds hard against the laws of the land. So we're using a bit of common sense here against the laws of the land. And it does work against me, like emotionally, if you pull it in that way. But I think we've got to support sometimes people that are trying to do the right thing by the laws of the land. And I think in this case, every endeavour to have this built going with the laws, I think is making a big difference, because there's so many people, so many residents who will go the other way and build things. I see things built in our Cardinia Shire that are illegal, and they just build them. Then we don't go through the process of doing a permit of retrospective after the ball, and so we don't celebrate our residents that try to do the right thing, and that's where I get to with this. So I can't help myself to actually follow this through. So thank you, Mayor, because I'm happy that we got to a point where we can see some light at the end of the tunnel with this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Any other councillors? I see Councillor Davies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'd like to acknowledge the applicants who are here tonight. Tonight, I would like to move that should Councillor Owen's alternate motion be lost, I would then seek to move the council officer's recommendation, the original recommendation, which was the refusal of the application. The key considerations I have reviewed include that the applicant is seeking approval for a single level dwelling and garage and associated vegetation removal. The applicant, to build a single level dwelling in the centre of their property, needs to clear a very large footprint for the dwelling. This dwelling, this land is a rural conservation zone. It is densely vegetated, and there is a significant environmental value in the habitat. So an arborist may not assess these trees as being highly valuable, but a biodiversity consultant or professional would. The value might just not be the prettiness or the tree canopy, but it can be the what flora and fauna can actually reside in this habitat. So even if an arborist says, oh, that's a dead tree, it doesn't mean that our biodiversity consultants will say that this is lost habitat. So what has been proposed is a very significant amount of vegetation clearing. And whilst the bushfire considerations are satisfactory, the location chosen is not one that would minimise the vegetation loss on the property. It's not in a corner that's partly clear. It's right in the middle where there's lots and lots of trees. And nor will the applicant's choice of a large single level property achieve this either. For example, a house with a double story could give you the same living space, but less clearance and less removal of trees. So given the zoning of this land is a rural conservation zone, nobody has a right to a residential building. So for that reason, based on my interpretation of statutory planning legislation, and it is complicated, is that the environmental significance is higher than needs to be ranked and prioritised higher than the view that I think any human would take, which is, yeah, let's give this couple a chance to build their dream home. And whilst it's complicated, these permit conditions are considerable. I don't think that it's actually in anyone's interest to give applicants who have told us that they want to build, told us what they want, to give them a permit that isn't going to allow them to build what they want. Instead, this permit, should we grant it tonight, the council is essentially saying to them, we're giving you a permit, but you've got all these rules. Are these even achievable? Like, I don't feel comfortable doing that. So, the first thing when I saw this application is the absolute beauty of it. I can't think of anything nicer than living on a beautiful bush block in the middle of nowhere, you're close to town. But I also am conscious that council's decisions can be overturned if a court found that a councillor involved had prejudiced the manager or was not actually open to persuasion at the time of determining the matter. And I want to ensure that we achieve the best outcomes for our community, current and future. And I do want to see the applicants realise their dream, but granting this permit isn't helping anybody. Its conditions are so complicated that it doesn't achieve what they want. I think the correct direction I believe that the applicant should consider is to seek an independent biodiversity consultant to actually address this issue, to work out, well, where could we build on our block? What might that look like? It might not be exactly what we thought, but actually find a real compromise. And I also note that the applicants have approached this on their own. They haven't gone through a planning consultant, and they've done their best, and they have accrued costs, as you do, but it doesn't sit right with me to give a permit that is so complicated and so. To me, it's not the council decision that I would want on myself, or if these applicants were my family members. So tonight, I seek, should Councillor Owen's alternate motion be lost, I think that the best way to proceed will be to refuse the permit as per the council officer's recommendation, and that is not based on anything other than the significance of the biodiversity conditions on site. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. I'll now go to Councillor Ross. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and with great respect for everyone's point of view at the table, and I realise everyone does have, I went and visited the site as well after hearing the council briefings and then the updates on the briefings on the journey. This is one of the saddest planning applications I think I've seen on council, where people go and purchase a block of land with the rules as they are at the time. And like most young people, you think, well, we've got the block, we can do things, you get told you can do things at the time. The planning application, if it had gone in at that time, would have been approved. Unfortunately, you try and save money and put stuff together and that, and years go on and then the rules change. And these people got left with a block of land that they couldn't do what they planned to do when they bought the place. Which means then it's basically, what do you do with it? Councillor Owens worked extremely hard in this case to try and find a way, when there probably was very little way of being able to do it, to let them move forward in their life and give them something to try and work towards. I think it is very onerous, the amount of conditions on it, and it needs to be because of the overlays that have been put on that land. But it gives them a solution. It gives them something to work towards, that if they can make it happen, they can move forward in their life and have a go to try and get out of this mess. Otherwise, these people, and with all legislation and different things, you look for the common sense side of things to see whether or not the law actually works for the people or it works against the people. And in this case, these people who originally purchased it, and if they had purchased it now, they know they couldn't have done what they wanted to do. But this gives them a solution to their problem. It gives them an opportunity to try and make it happen. So therefore, they're not left high and dry. So I'm going to support this. I hope that they can be able to work through it so they can get what they're after. And we don't have another couple that we hear about on the news that are stuck with laws that change, that basically screw them over. Anyway, I'll support this. I hope they can move forward in their life now and have a plan and go and see someone about making it happen. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ross, and all councillors for your comments. I will now go back to the mover to sum up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to all councillors for the debate and discussion on this item. I respect the varying views around the table. Just going back to the report and a number of assessments within the report and some comments. The proposed dwelling will not fragment agricultural land, as this site is heavily covered by Indigenous flora, making it unviable for productive agricultural practices. It is also unlikely that the single dwelling will impact upon adjoining or nearby land uses due to the existing mosaic of farm and land intermixed with dwellings and dense vegetation. Also, while the dwelling has a relatively large footprint, it is of appropriate design, seeking to minimise any perceived impact to the public realm or adjoining properties, as it will be screened appropriately due to the required cut and fill and also the vegetation screening. The bushfire risk. Prior to assessing the bushfire particulars in detail, it is noted that the Fire Rescue Victoria has been referred the application and provided consent, subject to the conditions to be placed on any permit issued. This consent indicates that the Fire Rescue Victoria has assessed the bushfire management plan provided by the applicant, which is deemed to be appropriate and meets the numerical and policy requirements to provide defendable space, ensure a risk to life is deemed acceptable. I do acknowledge that the list of conditions is quite extensive. I have flagged these conditions with the applicant, and the applicant has informed me that it is achievable, and they almost expected such conditions if a permit was to be issued. So I think they're well in the right place and space to meet these conditions. So I do want to thank the officers. I appreciate there's been different opinions on this application from officers, councillors, but I do respect their work in this space. But I am moving this motion for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. So we'll now put this to a vote. We're voting on a motion that differs to the officer's recommendation as presented by Councillor Owen. All those in favour? Against? Abstain? Thank you, Councillor Davies. I declare that carried. Thank you. We will now move on to item 5.2, Planning Matters VCAT Report. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Kowaczyk.
I move that council note the report, Mayor.
Thank you. Can I please ask for a seconder? Councillor Davies. Thank you. I'll go to the mover to speak if you wish.
Nothing further, thank you, Mayor.
Seconder, would you like to add in?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors would like to say anything? Thank you. Sorry, I'm looking over here. Congratulations, I have to say. Thank you. So we'll put that to a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Item 5.3, Planning Matters dealt with by officers under delegated authority. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Kowaczyk.
I move that council note the report.
Thank you. May I have a seconder? Councillor Ross. Councillor Kowaczyk, would you like to speak on this?
Nothing further, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Ross, would you like to speak?
Nothing further, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll put this to a vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. Item 5.4, Planning Scheme Amendment Activity Report. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Cameron, are you moving the officer's recommendation?
Nearly forgot. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask for a seconder? Councillor Ryan, thank you. Would you like to speak on any of that, Councillor Cameron?
Nothing to add.
Thank you. Councillor Ryan, would you like to add anything?
Nothing to add, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors? No, so we'll put this to a favour. All those in favour, put those to a vote, sorry. Against? I declare that carried. Thank you. So thank you. That concludes. Sorry. I can't hear her. No. Oh, not out of town. Thank you, though. Thank you. That concludes tonight's Town Planning Committee meeting. So I thank everyone, all councillors, for their attendance, those who have attended to our gallery and watched online. Thank you. I now declare the meeting closed. Thanks.